Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Confident Woman Leader Show. My name is Dina Redinger. I am CEO of Diagnostic Thinking and ACE Coaching Company. I am so excited. I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first LinkedIn Live session. So thank you for your patience with all of us, but I brought you an absolutely amazing guest. And I do want to let you know that this Confident Woman Leader Show is where women go from chaos to confidence. They're stepping in, they're stepping up, and they're being the change that organizations need today. We believe that confident women leaders are changing the world. Today's guest is Stacy Feiner. Welcome, Stacy.
Hi, Tina.
Innovative psychologist and leadership coach who coaches you to untangle from mental blockers and advance with new perspectives. Stacy was actually my mud wrestler about a year and a half ago with my own emotions and helped me just kind of step in my own confidence and help me get out of my own way. So I wanted to bring her to you so that you could get to know her. And we're going to ask her some questions about how she stepped into her confidence. So Stacy, I am so excited to have you on my first live show. You know, you're a great friend. And you're a firecracker. I absolutely adore who you are, and you are definitely a force to be reckoned with in the coaching world. So I love you. And I'd like to find out from you, what would you like our audience to know about you?
Well, first of all, the feeling is mutual, Dina. I am a big fan of yours, and I really look forward to talking more today about diagnostic thinking and how it has shaped my life and how I've watched it shape the lives of other women who I know and love. In fact, you are going to be working with yet another one of my close people in my life. But I think what I'd like maybe to start with is not everybody knows what their purpose is in life. But somehow at 8 years old, my parents got me my first guitar, and I found my voice. I sang my own songs, and I was a big fan of Bob Dylan's back in the day, and so I sang about peace and justice and equality. And my father, and I knew my purpose early on was to improve the human condition in some way. I knew that I was destined to help people and our planet and our people. About at the same time, my father had cut out a quote from the Wall Street Journal. And it's a quote that I didn't realize would really define my career and my life. And the quote is, just because a million people think something is a good idea doesn't make it a good idea. Mm-hmm. And that really has stayed with me. And I've been coaching people to discover their own voice, stand for what they believe, and accomplish the things that are most important to them for my whole life, for as long as I can remember. And I intend to do it for the rest of my life. So, and I might also add what people might want to know about me from that is what my clients have said about me. So one client said, a CEO of a marketing company said, when you start a conversation with Stacy, prepare to be engaged.
That's so
right?
True.
And another client, a CEO of a not-for-profit, said, at first I anticipated every session with Stacy with dread. And then one day I realized I was protecting the hold in my calendar for her with all of my might. Yes. And then someone else said, Stacy is so confident in the human spirit. She took me farther than I ever imagined I could go.
Yes.
And then one client said, Stacy prods me to realize I can and must be great. So I think that's it's just the insistence on growth. And that you can't escape it when you work with me.
No, and I think that's true, and I've seen you, step into your purpose and improve that human spirit, right? And it really is kind of your own confidence, right? Confidence is such an important skill. Tell us about your experience and how you stepped into your confidence to lead others. What's it like for you when people are dreading? They love you and they want to drink you in, but they're also they have to be ready for you, right? Because you're confident, right? And I love that about you.
Well, I have two parts of this story. One is a bit it's all self-revealing, but so one thing about my work with confidence is I do feel when I'm in the zone and I'm in the flow with a client, I do feel like I'm channeling, just the universe and the power of the universe and so when I'm in flow, I'm really never doubting my intuition with a client and or even a friend or my family. I mean, you just don't turn it off. I think what I learned is to manage that gift and the power that, kind of sometimes it just kind of comes over me is I think there's a combination of reverence for a client. And once I feel confident that I am completely in their corner, then no holds barred, I can kick their ass. Because that pressure for growth is a tension. And clients are already experiencing the tension. And I say clients, but these people are my people, right? I yearn for them as much as they yearn for me. And so there's reverence and insistence on growth and not letting people show up naked or hide behind their blind spots. And I would say, probably I didn't realize I would say this, but one thing that I've learned over my career is there isn't anything that a client can say or share that would scare me off, that it is too unacceptable for them to discuss or accept in themselves. So there's nothing I'm afraid of in human growth and self-discovery.
I love that, right? So it really comes down to sometimes, like you said, fear is never going to lock you up, right? If you stay in that place, what I heard you say is a place of reverence, right? Is that it's not your fear, it's you're going to help other people overcome that fear, right? You really remain kind of empty for what you're hearing and saying. So I love that. And so back to that, another question is, what's the biggest challenge that you see women face today?
Well, a couple things. Number one, I think this is all contained, but I'll get to my point. I mean, women play by the rules that weren't made for us. We often feel on the outside because we play in a world and we live in a world that we are outside of. We need to challenge the things we face externally, and we need to find opportunities for change internally. So I feel like we need to challenge the system and we need to change our self-perceptions internally. So I think challenge and change are two different things. And I very much think that women need to think for themselves. And I don't think we think enough for ourselves. And we need to use ourselves as our reference point. So rather than comparing ourselves to what others are doing, we need to find ourselves as acceptable and full of potential, and we need to make our own decisions and, again, think for ourselves.
Yeah, I love that, and I would love to ask you, in order to think for ourselves, there's more that women need. What would that be, in your opinion?
Well, we need to be able to think out loud with each other, and we need to be able to take our half-baked ideas that we're not sure about and experiment with those ideas in conversation with other women, and we need to be challenged. So I think what we need is a lot more time with other women, and there's a dynamic that we need to create with each other. We need to feel accepted, and we need to feel like our sense of belonging is not challenged regardless of our self-expression. So every human being has this, we're born with this tension. We're born with the tension with a need for self-expression, and we also have a need for belonging. And as you can imagine, those things can be at odds with each other. If your community doesn't like your self-expression, the things that you're saying, the things that you believe in, the things that you're evolving to, you could risk being ostracized. Right. And yet, if you hold on too closely to a sense of belonging, you lose your voice. Yes. And you lose your desire for self-expression. So what we need is women, time with women, to share our ideas, explore them, challenge them, refine them, get confident in our ideas, so that when we go out into the world, we've already tested those ideas. We know that they have merit and relevance. So I think that's a really big, it's probably the easiest thing and the most important way to achieve confidence is to explore, refine your ideas with the people you love and trust the most, and then go out into the world with them. And if people disagree with them, you've already tested them with people you respect the most.
I love that. And I heard a couple really important things, right? That safety, that community, a place where you can test how you think without being judged or shamed. It's a big deal, right? It's a super big deal in that fear. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, if I may, Dina, I would say that what I love about diagnostic thinking, which is the approach that you've designed and developed, is you have, just as you're doing right now, you draw out really quickly the most salient points, and then you ask me to refine them. I think if you really want to accelerate this process of developing confidence, it's to start with diagnostic thinking. Oh, I mean, I think it's
I
right
wasn't
out of the gate.
That answer, but thank you very much for your endorsement. I really appreciate
it. Well, it's not so much as an endorsement as it's advice to the listeners. If they want to accelerate, if confidence is something that they feel they're lacking or anything they're lacking, I think a starting point to jumpstart the process to get you far enough ahead so that you're really growing is to start with diagnostic thinking.
Well, that probably answered my next question then, because that next one was if you would have 3 tips, so you gave one, so join a diagnostic thinking group. If you really want to move up in your career and have that real gritty confidence to step into your greatness, you gave 1. 2 other tips that you would give our listeners to increase that confidence.
Well, I mean, I think if I were, well, okay, so I do think that confidence, if you're trying to improve confidence, you need to practice something. So you need a place to practice. And it's either practicing something, a skill or an ability that you don't have, or it's kind of like Dorothy, where you have it all, you just don't know how to use it. And I think oftentimes we're more Dorothy and we're wearing the ruby slippers, and we need somebody around us or a group of people around us to show us how to use our own power. And then I think it's the willingness to test ourselves, to take action with that. I would say, going back to diagnostic thinking, again, I think it's an investment. So I think these are the things that we have to do. If we really, if we're tired of waiting around, if we don't want to wait around anymore, one is invest in ourselves. So oftentimes that's a dollar amount. So I think there is value in investing in ourselves. I think when you invest in ourselves in diagnostic thinking, you get you, right, an expert, but you also get a group of other women who are on the journey with you. And it's a set time frame. So it's, okay, so I'll say that, and then I'll just say one other thing. In my estimation of coaching versus therapy is it's all on the same continuum. And as a clinical psychologist, I've been on the entire continuum. I've worked in psychiatric hospitals. I've got my doctorate in clinical psychology. I've worked in psychiatric hospitals. I've worked in runaway shelters. I worked on a clemency project where women were incarcerated for killing their abusers, and that was and all the way to coaching elite athletes and owners of businesses, right? So people who are really at the top of their game, and they have a lot of responsibility for communities, managing communities. I would say that therapy is about somebody who helps protect you from falling and gets you back up to baseline, gets you back up to your baseline. And then you have the continuum of all of the different things. And then coaching, performance coaching, which is what you and I do, this is about helping people climb to a new baseline, right? So growth it's not always about grow. It's grow to a new baseline, use that new skill set and power and confidence to accomplish a new set of goals, and then to do it again, and to do it again, and to do it again. So growth is always finding a new baseline, a new place of self-awareness, self-confidence, capacity for contributing to the world. And I would just say, if you're ready to develop a new baseline, we could jumpstart it with coaching.
Yeah, I totally 100%.
And each other.
Yeah, and you need that community. I think the community and the psychological safety to be able to step in. It's the hardest thing for women to do, I think, sometimes, is just to step into the places where it's kind of an unknown place that we've decided not to visit. And so we have to visit that. So kind of like what you said, it's a decision, it's kind of a decision to step in. So it looks like you have a thought. So go ahead.
Well, I do. I have a couple of thoughts. I remember way back in the day in the late 1880s when I moved to San Francisco, and I remember I was having a cup of coffee. I just moved to San Francisco, and I opened the newspaper. I was reading a newspaper at the time, and I saw an ad for a Panasonic telephone machine. So you would call it was really groovy. It was really sleek. It had 2 mini cassettes, and you'd plug it into your phone, and when you weren't home, you'd get messages. And I remember it was $88.99, and I thought, oh my God, I could have one of those. That's not a luxury item for somebody else. I could actually buy one of those for myself. And that changed everything. I think it's what I would like to say. Invest in yourself. And by the way, just because a coach says that they're, this amount of money, you can ask for one session. Can I pay you for one session? I've got a couple people who I'm kind of vetting, and I'd like to just experience you for one session. Can we try one session? Can we try 6? You're the boss.
Yeah. I love it.
I just really wanted to put that out there. And also, I would also say one other thing. Isn't this fun, Dina? I mean, isn't the conversation about growth fun?
Yes.
It is fun. I think what people think is they're going to show up, they're going to cry, they're going to be unhappy, they're going to feel a lot of regret, they're going to feel like they've tried and tried and tried, and they've never succeeded at what they wanted, or they're stuck in this one thing. And really, you have the answer, and it's so fun to do it with somebody. So
it is.
It's fun. The work is fun. Growth is fun.
And it's got to feel safe. And I think that's really important, for women in general, and I want to ask you, so what is you might have answered this, but that best advice for women when they're fearful for asking for what they want?
Well,
what would you say?
Okay. So one thing you have to know about me is I don't spend a lot of time with that reluctance. So
that's very true about you, Stacy. That's right.
It's I'm not comfortable in the space, so I don't spend a lot of time. I don't spend a lot of time in the space of not knowing how to accomplish a goal or get through a fear. I think it's best for me. It's most fun to do it in tandem with somebody. And I guess another way of saying it is, I think I might, for me, I would be more fearful of what it means if I don't break through the fear than fearing making the ask. I mean,
I love that.
I do remember a time I was at a company, and there were 3, the problem was there were 3 bosses, right? 3 men owned the company, and they all had to be the head honcho. So one was a president, one was the CEO, the other one was the chairman or the managing partner, whatever. They all had a big title. And I sat with them when we were trying to find revenue. And anyway, long and short of it is, I presented as frustrated with them because they weren't listening and they weren't considering my idea. and they were blowing me off. So I demonstrated my frustration. I let them know that I thought those things, and they left. And I was left with my partner, and he said, you know, Stacy, those people are your boss. And I said, no, they're not my boss. And he said, yes, they're your boss. And I said, no, they're not. They have to be my partners if they're going to be my boss, right? So, you know, when you are in the service of others, you need partnership. You need enough agreement with people so that you can get the things done that are important, and you're not held back. So I think it's when you start feeling like you're being held back because you're not being listened to, that's when you know you need to make a move. And I have other things to say, but you can.
Well, I love that, because I think, you know, a lot of women feel that way, right? There's a reluctancy when they feel like they're not being heard, and they have this biological response to, oh my gosh, they're not listening to me. You know, they don't even see me. I don't even have a seat at the table, you know. And when they're there, you know, certainly love to get some advice. How do they untangle themselves when they're in that space?
So I have a little bit of a daily promise. Let me just see if I can pull it up, because I want to read the 4 steps to you.
Love that.
So it's kind of an infinity. You can find it on my website, stacyfeiner.com, and I think it's on the homepage, but it's an infinity, and it has 4 inflection points. And the first one is that you have to realize you can and must be great, but you can't expect to be inspired. You have the realization comes from being challenged. So, you know, I think, you know, even if so realize you can and must be great, because it's kind of like when you're on an airplane, put the mask on yourself first, then help everybody else. So we have to do this for ourselves, and we're each unique in our own way, and we're not supposed to be like anybody else. So we need to love our uniqueness and our idiosyncrasies. Then the second part is grapple with new ideas, untangle from old assumptions, use better words, try new moves, and tap into your potential. So this is the fun part of coaching is we all come in, we all walk around, we've made a lot of shortcuts over our lives, right? We make shortcuts in our thinking, and we use those shortcuts to make new decisions. Right. And what we often need to do is say, those shortcuts worked 10 years ago. They don't work anymore. We need to reset our thinking.
Yes.
So we need to untangle from old assumptions and create new perspectives. Yes. And that comes with, you know, talking out loud and looking at the world differently. And I think also a big one is using new words. I was just on the phone with somebody this morning, and they were using the word, I'm trying to remember, what word were they using? I don't remember. And I said, yeah, you know, if you keep using that word, you'll always start from the negative. Just rephrase that into the positive and talk about it from that perspective. So and then the third is commit to doing better every day than you did yesterday. And don't wait, and expect others to do the same. So we're individuals, but we're part of communities, and we need to be in communities that are interested in wrestling with ideas and moving forward together. And then, of course, be a force with a mission, and confidently close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And you have to think big to do that. So I know, again, these are maybe they're ideas, and they're not, you know, you're not going to find them in the 1, 2, 3, 4 tips. You know, you can get them online. You really have to look inward at your own psychology. And so emotional awareness, you know, I will say one other thing. A lot of times we think we're supposed to be rational and logical because the world or men's way of thinking or their preference is to be logical and rational, which when they get angry or when they ignore us or when they want to prioritize themselves, those are all emotional reactions, and they're very irrational. So I can't say that men perform rationally, but we get labeled as emotional. And what I really want to say is the more aware you are of your own emotions, the more powerful you can be. Emotions are intuition, their experiences, and their memories.
Yes.
Thoughts and analysis are very superficial, right? They're very external, and they can change depending on what a person prefers. But going in and becoming emotionally aware and understanding why you're doing what you're doing, that's where the power lies. That's where you'll find confidence.
Absolutely. And I love what you just said. You know, the first step is realizing to be great, right? We have a lot of, and I get myself kind of caught up sometimes if I use the word I should or I want to, it's like, then do it, right? Why are you should and want? You should just do it, right? So it's kind of what you and I do, you know, we talk about it all the time, you know, is this some of this mud wrestling that we do with ourselves, right? Because we go back in time, which is why, you know, diagnostic thinking, I think, was so powerful, is because, you know, being able to slow down the biology. And men do think different than women. It's biologically, we're just different. We have different experiences, different beliefs, but also being able to kind of cut through some of those layers of why do we think the way that we do, because we get lost in this narrative, right? And so I think those 4 steps are very powerful. So I heard, you know, realizing you must be great, challenge you to be that inspiration, grapple with new ideas, use better words. I love that, right? Because sometimes we can get kind of wrapped up in the narrative and then our communication lacks sometimes. So I love that. What kind of books, blogs, or podcasts do you listen to, Stacy?
I'm not a big podcast person, but I do like NPR. I listen to NPR, and I like I love TED Talks. I probably watch a new TED Talk once a week. I feel connected to the rest of the world. So I recommend TED Talks. I just can't get enough of them. And you will find, I think, that people take 20 minutes to expound on a rather simple idea. And it's very profound.
Yeah.
Really, you think, really, that person was accepted onto a TED stage with that idea, and then they evolve it. And it's just, I think it's just very reassuring, and it is about confidence in our own ideas. I think that platform is a fabulous platform.
I love that.
I'll also say I love following a woman by the name of Cindy Gallop, Gallop. I follow her on LinkedIn, but I know she's on other platforms. If you know, she represents for me the feminist voice of women's sexuality, and you know, you can explore some of the things that she's doing from a business and entrepreneurial perspective. But she's also been very powerful in the Me Too movement and helping women get their concerns and their you know, the crimes against them spoken out loud.
Yeah.
And the perpetrators of that. I'd also recommend a woman by the name of Sally Krawcheck. Sallie, and Krawcheck is Krawcheck, and she's the feminist for money. So here you have sex and money, right? So Sally Krawcheck is all about how teaching women how to be powerful with money. And the last person I might say, she wrote a book, Margaret Heffernan. Oh my gosh, she's done a lot of TED Talks, but she wrote a book called Uncharted. And if you get a chance to watch any videos of hers, I mean, she's just, well, she exudes confidence, and her ideas are so similar to mine, but so founded, so grounded in research, and that she's just a breath of fresh air.
I love that. I love that. My next question for you is, if you could go back and do it all over again, what would you tell your younger self?
Well, I might, well, you know, it's, I have, you know, well, the roles that have been assigned women have not done us a great service. So when I was getting when I was trying to decide if I was going to marry my husband, who was at the time my boyfriend, who I'm still married to and I love very much. We have 2 children, great kids. I show them off on LinkedIn sometimes. I did say to him, you know, I'm not sure, when we were dating, I'm not sure I want to have children. And I think I do, but I don't want to assume that we're going to have children. So I want you to know that we should talk about whether we want them or not. So I think it's good not to assume certain things. I also, when I was dating with him, I remember saying, listen, you know, because we were sexually involved before we were married. And I remember saying to him, you know, until I tell you that, if I do get, you know, until I'm ready to tell you that what happens to my body is a decision that we make together. So if I were to get pregnant, I'll let you know when we'll make the decision together, and when I get to make the decision alone. Until I tell you, it's my decision alone to make. So I think whether I carry a pregnancy to term, I think those things are important. And I was so young at the time when I was having those conversations, and I just encourage women to think, you know, those are 2 examples. You could apply them to a lot of other assumptions. You know, and I think those things.
I love that, right? So, and I think that's great for everyone, anybody that's listening to this show, men or women, never assume. I remember the first time I said, I assumed, and they said, well, we know what that means, right? It makes an ass out of you and me. Don't assume anything, right? So I think that's that's a great.
But I think it's about thinking for yourself.
Yes.
And I think it's about, you know, and in giving yourself permission to make any decision you want to make for your life.
Yeah, for what you want.
Yeah, yes. For what you want.
I love that. So my final question for you, Ms. Stacy, is there anything you would like to share about diagnostic thinking, or maybe your experience where we are when we did diagnostic thinking?
Yeah, well, so Deanna and you and I we are kindred spirits. And I feel very competent and capable and passionate and, you know, driven and compelled to do what I do. And there aren't a lot of, I surround myself with other people for when my clients have something that I can't help them with and they need other people to help them with. There's always a team of people. I find the work that we did, so we're partnering on a project together, you and I, around diagnostic thinking, and we're going to do our second retreat, hopefully in Montana, for a small group of women over the course of a week, or a little bit less than a week. If we have overflow, we'll do a subsequent week, and we'll just spend the summer week to week facilitating diagnostic thinking. And the real power in this process is it's a community of women who are both dedicated to themselves and dedicated to each other.
Yes.
And we go through just a whole bunch of experiences that light up and remind us of our spirit, you know, and sometimes when I get so caught up in the world, I remember a sunset, and I remember it's the universe that I am here to live for, right? If I can live up to the expectations of the universe, I can live up to the expectations of myself and all of the people around me. So I often find that the universe is my calling. And when we're in Montana, surrounded by nature, it's so easy to reconnect with my calling and my purpose. And I think, so the diagnostic thinking retreat is all about our healthy selves and reconnecting with ourselves, but also going through an emotional process of self-expression where we refine our ideas and our ideals to a place where we have, we have a sense of what we want to do with our lives and how we want to accomplish our goals. So
yeah, I love that. I love that. And I'm hoping that anybody who's listening that would like to experience something like that, this was such an powerful retreat. I had no idea what I was going to get out of it for myself, right? So I kind of walked in blindly, but it was with women who, you would immediately felt a trust. There was a bond there. And I didn't know 97% of the women that were going there, except for you and Rachel, but it was a wonderful place. And I'd love to take other women who are searching to find that space, that purpose, that confidence, that ability to think clearly about what you want and where you want to go in your life. It's critical, I think, for all women. So Stacy, I want to thank everyone for attending Confident Woman Leader Show, our first particular show, and helping women go from chaos to confidence, stepping up, stepping in, and being the change that the world needs today. So signing
Amen.
off, we'll see you next week. I have a great guest. Her name is Swati Tiaji. She's from India. So she'll be able to share with the world how she stepped into her confidence. Stacy Feiner, thank you for being my guest today. I love you and I love your work. Keep it up and we will see you soon.
Okay, bye everybody. Thanks, Tina.